What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Swole Friends podcast. My name is Alex, and I am your host, as well as the co-founder and COO here at Swolverine. Swolverine is an endurance athlete and active lifestyle brand. All of our products, with over 31 of them now, which is kind of crazy to say, are all proprietary, blend-free, clinically dosed, and scientifically proven effective. Today, though, super excited to have our Swole Friends podcast guest, Brandan, one of the most multifaceted fitness professionals in the entire space. He's also been along the fitness kind of journey before social media existed, really made himself a household name. And today we're going to talk about not only his fitness accomplishments, being an IFBB Pro, being on the cover of magazines, being the head of like some really, really major companies in the space, but also how he's, developed his personal image, his personal brand through time, how he has, partnered with other people in this space, become a wellness director, how he talks to the youth and really is fostering the future of not only, I think, bodybuilding and fitness in general, but just kind of like this overall health and wellness community, both, aesthetically, but mentally too. So today, super excited to have him. Brandan, what's up? How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. I'm excited to chat with you. It's interesting, when you talk to someone like yourself who is very accomplished, very well-rounded, who brings not only, just an aesthetic to the community, but just this value. Where do we where do we even start kind of in a way? But I guess where we will start is tell me a little bit about just kind of early life. Let's just start from the beginning. I mean, what was little Brandan like? I mean, you're a father now, you see your son, but what was little Brandan like? And how did you end up getting into fitness in the first place?
So my early life, my parents had me at barely 18, years of age. So they didn't quite necessarily know how to be parents at the time.
Mhm.
And so I bounced around a lot. I was at my paternal grandma's a lot, but I also had an extremely difficult early childhood, meaning, we lived in poverty, so to speak, condemned housing. We didn't have food on the table, stuff like that. And I looked up to like Hulk Hogan, in the 80s, I'm that old, Superman, stuff like that, because they did good things and they were super strong and they could essentially bounce back from anything. They couldn't be hurt, right? So I was intrigued by muscles and strength and all that stuff at a young age because, for me, living in the conditions that I did, I felt that that was some sort of protection, for me. So from about the age of probably 5 until I was about 10, if you look back at any picture, I was flexing, like straight double biceps. They had to hold my arms down in like family photos and stuff because I wanted to be big and strong. That was it, and I was determined that no matter what, that's what I was going to be. Unfortunately, it didn't end up initially that way, so to speak, because when I was younger, I was a great athlete. I could play every sport and all that. And that's how I made friends, because I went from school to school to school, moved around a lot. But I wasn't strong. And when I was a freshman in high school, the hierarchy of who's cool is what you can bench press, right?
That's fair.
The first time I tried to bench press, I couldn't bench press 100 pounds. I could dunk a basketball, but I couldn't bench press 100 pounds. So I was relentlessly made fun of over and over and over because, I was 6'1" in the 8th grade, and that's where I stopped growing. So I grew all at once and then I stopped. So, I'm this bigger kid that can do all these other things, but I wasn't strong. And that's kind of what got me, motivated to start. And back then we didn't have the internet and all that stuff to look things up. So it was all in magazines. And the first person I really attached myself to was Mike O'Hearn, because at the time he was in every magazine. He was on every cover. And they were always, yeah, in everywhere. And, so up front, that's where I started to pick out workouts and, learn what to eat and stuff like that. And that's where my journey really started, was about the age of 14.
Gotcha. So about that time, I mean, growing up, I guess, in poverty or like limited access, food insecurity, when you were looking at these people and then learning, what it takes to get there and what it takes to build that type of muscle and mass, what resources did you have available to you, or what didn't you have available to you? Like, how did you start to be like, cool, I need to do this or I need to do that? And what do I have access to or what don't I? Like, how did you make that work for you?
At the time, supplements were too expensive. EAS was the company, that was out at the time, and their supplements were crazy expensive. And, a kid in high school, I couldn't afford that. And so for me, it was just about lifting and being consistent. And up front, it's chest day every day. You don't know anything else. And the more you read and the more you learn, you start doing, different types of workouts and stuff. And so through high school, it was a learning curve, just learning about my body, learning how to lift and be efficient in that. I was a senior in high school before I took any supplements. The first one I took was creatine because I had a job. I was able to pay for it. And, back then it was just a basic powder, but, I took it religiously. And, I started to excel in the realm of lifting. I would say probably around the age of 17. That's when things really started to pick up for me.
Would you say lifting was kind of like there's a place where you could focus your energy and like kind of escape from your life a little bit, or just,
Yeah. So I technically have been diagnosed with PTSD based on my upbringing and other factors in my young life. And in my senior year of high school, I started to have panic attacks, and I didn't know what the hell a panic attack was. I was like, what's going on with this, right?
Yeah.
And you're at an age where your hormones are all over the place and all that. And I was never depressed, and I've never been depressed in my life. But I have dealt with panic attacks and stuff like that at an early age until I learned, how to cope with them and deal with them myself. But, because of that, that's where the gym became kind of my medication, so to speak, because I wasn't medicated through any of those events. And the gym, no matter what's going on in my life, has always been there for me. It's always been my relief. It's always been my getaway. It's always been my place to focus. People always ask me, like, I don't listen to music in the gym, for instance. I don't have headphones in because I literally lose myself in the gym. And I'm in my head the whole time, and I'm working things out about my day and about my life and all that other stuff. And the gym just really, it completes me. To be honest, it makes me more balanced, happier, healthier, more successful individual.
Was there a time where you phased out of playing sports or dunking basketballs, I guess you'd say, to focus a little bit more on training or like lifting?
Yep. All the way through high school, I played various sports, loved sports. I always had an aspiration to play pro baseball. And, I had scouts watching me, freshman year all the way through, and obviously college is coming up and all that. And weight training only made me better. When I got to college, to want to play baseball and all that stuff, it really, the interest wasn't there anymore. It all transitioned over to into weightlifting. It's something that I was passionate about and I loved. And at the time, I didn't have any necessary goals other than I wanted to be big and strong. That was it. I just wanted to be big and strong, period. I didn't care about aesthetics, anything like that. Just big and strong. That's all I wanted. And the other part was I had a crazy metabolism. So I also didn't put on weight necessarily that easy up front either. When you're 19, 20, 21 years old, it comes a lot harder. The strength came, but the muscle didn't necessarily come as quickly as I would have liked.
That's fair. Okay. So let's talk. So like, for example, what did you weigh when you were 17? You're 6'1", you grew in 8th grade. What did you weigh?
And when I graduated high school at 192 pounds. I know that for a fact. I probably started high school 160 probably. Right now I weigh about 200 pounds. I've been doing a lot of cardio. I'm staying leaner right now. Mm-hmm. I actually used to compete, believe it or not, in the 180s. I used to have to drop muscle to compete because the way my aesthetics are, my round shoulders and chest, I always look way bigger than I am. Mm-hmm. So I've never been this, huge person in competition. I've been as heavy as 255 pounds. That wasn't very comfortable. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't tie my shoes. I'm not meant to be big. I have tiny joints and all that. It's just not for me. So off season for me, when I was competing and really doing a ton in the industry, I would stay around 220 pounds, and then I would cut down gradually for events and stuff like that.
Okay. Where did you go? You said you went to school for college?
Yep. In South Dakota. School, I think at a young age, I went for a while, I went back, went for a while, went back, meaning it just at a young age, not necessarily having the stability of the family and stuff like that. It took me quite a while to get through and finish. And by then, realizing that a lot of the stuff I was learning more within working with people and stuff like that, so that the collegiate education and going further with it, for a while I wanted to be an RN, wanted to be a nurse just because it's something that, I wanted to work with people and I was interested in health and all that. And I ended up settling for business and, went off into the world, and I started to focus more on things I was individually interested in. And, that's training. So I've got 14 different training certifications. I have 3 in nutrition on top of that. And I found I got a lot more out of workshops, 3-4 day workshops than I ever was sitting in a classroom. And now I feel the same way. People have asked me, would you ever go back to school or this, that, or whatever? And at my age, other than to do something random, like get a doctorate or something like that, there's no point. I think you can learn as much as you want online, and, or again, spending time with individuals that really know their stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that I can go hang out with a doctor and go be a doctor. That doesn't mean that. But what I'm saying in general, for me and right now in my place in life, the things that I want to know are accessible through the people I either know or through, the internet, libraries, and or workshops that you can go to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that speaks to a lot of taking a good hard look at your life and like what school or what you're told to do, how it actually supports you or how it's actually going to further your life. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and my life's going to look like 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's like, if you actually just start looking at yourself and say, like, if I go get a master's or doctorate, how can I apply this? How's it going to help me? And if it's not, like, that's no big deal. It doesn't make me any less like educated or knowledgeable or, that I can contribute to my communities. Right.
Yep. I mean, honestly, coming out of school, I didn't know, jack about much. To be honest, it's years of experience in working with people and asking questions and, surrounding yourself with people that know more than you. And, especially when it comes to training and stuff, and so many variables over the past 24 years that have been training have obviously changed. What we thought we knew then, we know different now. And it's, it's something that you always have to keep up on.
Totally. Real quick here, Monique, what's up? Hello, Alex and Brandon. How's it going?
Hi.
Brandon, tell me a little bit more about, you mentioned partnerships, right? You mentioned working with other people in the space, surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you, who know things that you don't, who make you a better human and person. Who are you kind of partnering with right now in the industry?
From an industry standpoint, I know so many different people. That's something when I officially, and I can't really say I made it in the industry. Like, I'm not a Chris Bumstead or somebody like that. And I never set out to be that. I always had a corporate job, and fitness, this stuff was always on the side. I didn't focus on growth, so to speak, which is funny because when the internet really started to take off, I was friends with Bradley Martin. And this is before he had a massive following. And he kept telling me, he's like, get on Instagram, grow it. This is going to be the thing. And I'm like, what do I need that for? I had a great corporate job, and, I was landing these big sponsorships and stuff like that. So I was like, what more is out there? Now you look today, you're like, man, I kind of missed the bus on those things. But, when it comes to partnering with people, again, I'm so blessed to call so many amazing people friends. When it comes to sports supplements, I spent a lot of years with a lot of different companies, not a lot of varying companies, I would say, not conflicting companies. I was a bodybuilding.com athlete for many years, Dymatize, B Sports Nutrition, Icon Meals is my longest lasting sponsor. Todd Abrams is a good friend of mine over there, the owner. I can't say enough good things about him. He's an amazing individual, created an amazing product. Lately, I've got some really good friends at Core Nutraceuticals Nutrition. They're always sending me stuff, and they take care of me. But, you always kind of catch these people that are trudging ahead. They're creating the path for others to follow. And, I've seen, for instance, Dan Marenko, who is the creator of Ghost Nutrition. Like, I knew him before he was there when he was with Cellucor, and sitting down with him and telling me what his plan was. I'm going to create products that are based off of cookies and this and this and this. And this is what I'm going to do. And now they're a juggernaut. You know what I mean? So to have been there in the beginning to see that is insane. Having friends like Phil Heath or Jay Cutler or Mike O'Hearn, it's funny because I always tell Mike, here I was 14 years old reading about you, and now we're working out together. um, having those individuals to go to when you have questions or need help, or just to listen to, just to pay attention to. I'm not a super outspoken person, so I just pay attention. There's people in the industry that I watch, like Steve Cook. Steve's done everything right. He's been doing it a long time. He's very successful.
Yeah.
And, I think he does things the right way. And a lot of times I'll watch people and I just don't say anything. So it's not always partnering or creating that relationship where we're working together on things. Sometimes it's just paying attention to what other people do and watching how they lead and watching how they grow and then implementing it. And, or if you're friends with them, just asking them, how do you do it? There's people that I follow every day that you would have no idea who they are, but to me, they're intriguing and they're doing things that I think to be amazing. So I have a lot of resources. I believe that networking is king. So there's always a way to figure things out. Everything's figure outable, as they say. And I'm very connected in that sort, but I also like to figure things out myself. I really enjoy connecting other people to other people. But as a whole, it's just one of those things where, like I said, there's a multitude of people out there that I experience all in a different way, all the way from just following and watching them, never saying a word, all the way to people that I go to for advice.
Totally. And that's very respectable. And especially too in the day and age of social media and just all this shit thrown in your face all the time about do this and don't do that and follow this person and, enter this thing. And a lot of times I think people are concerned with who follows us or who follows you versus who you follow.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like mental health and like emotional health that goes into who you follow. And like you're saying, like a lot of times you might not even say something. You're just sitting there and you're observant and you're watching and you're learning. And I think that sometimes that's lost on people, which also kind of plays into the idea of you were in bodybuilding before social media. We'll just say it that way. And your why for bodybuilding, we can get into that. But I think a lot of people's why now is for the social aspect of it. It's not for the sport. It's not for, it's like, oh, everyone needs a pro card. I need my pro card. I'm going to go to this show and like get my shit handed to me. Like, that's not how it works. Like, that's not how the sport, it's a sport at the end of the day. But and you can touch on this a little bit more if you wouldn't mind, and how you see that changing people, how you've seen that change the sport. What do you see when you look at younger athletes or up and coming athletes or people who look at Chris Bumstead and they're like, yeah, I'm going to be that guy? Like, is that even like a thing anymore? Or is it just kind of people skip the staircase and expect to be at the top?
The industry has changed so much. I came into the industry at a time where people like me could make it. Before me, it was all the bodybuilders. It was the Jay Cullers, the Phil Heaths. It was those guys that were getting these monster contracts because the way things were sold and how few brands there were and everything else, they're the ones that had opportunity. And I came in right at the time to get that. And, over the years, I've worked with 40, 50 brands easily, and I've had some pretty big contracts that paid me a lot of money for a long time. And people would be astounded. They'd be like, seriously? I'm like, I'll show you the contract. I did a lot. And, people in general get unrealistic expectations. I'll be honest, I never thought I'd be on a magazine cover or be a pro or any of those things. I have a work ethic. I'll work my ass off for anything. And I aligned myself with the right people and I networked well. And, I gave value. And that's the one thing I think people don't realize is I don't give a shit how big your following is, because working with brands myself, having brands like Fokken Nuts and stuff like that, I work with people from UFC to NFL to, influencers, just standard influencers, to bodybuilders, to you name it. And I see who can sell stuff and who can't. The problem is overall, a lot of people in the fitness industry can't sell stuff because they're oversaturated, because over the last 10 years, they've promoted 40 different, pre-workout drinks. So they're not believable anymore. It's not something that people look and be like, I got to go get that. Now, there are people out there that are amazingly credible. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying in general, there are a lot of people out there, you'll see them with a different brand every week. They're just not selling any product, where that brand thinks, well, they got 1 million followers, it's going to turn into a sale, and it doesn't. And then you'll have people, again, that will have a following and they feel entitled, or they get a pro card and they think everything, just lands in the lap. It just does not work that way. Brands that are successful aren't going to give you money unless you are doing something in return that betters their brand, And I've seen brands make great decisions with athletes that really produce. And I've seen brands hand over $10,000 a month to somebody that, can't sell a freaking anything,
Polar bear.
and that's just how it is. But the industry has changed, and people now can create their own brands pretty easily. They can create their own products, and everything can be done online, and you don't need a bodybuilding.com anymore to sell your stuff, and you don't need a storefront to sell your stuff. It's all changed now, where before it was, well, there's 10 brands and these are the channels, and you have to put ads in magazines and all that. It's very different from that. But overall, anybody now can be famous. Anybody can be a billionaire overnight. And yes, I said billionaire because the way the world is set today, it's possible, which is crazy. We would never think that somebody can become a billionaire overnight, but it happens. These supplement companies that somebody starts off and they sell them for $600 million, or I was with Quest Nutrition when they first started. Their bars were hard as a rock. You had to microwave them and hope they tasted good, and they sold for $1 billion in cash. So there's a lot of amazing stories and a lot of amazing people out there, and there's a lot of amazing people doing amazing things. That's a lot of amazings. But then there's a lot of other people with unrealistic expectations, looking at individuals, assuming that they can skip all the steps that they took to get there, and or they're special or more special, and they should just be granted those things themselves, and it doesn't work that way.
Totally. And you mentioned you were in the corporate world. Fitness was on the side, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So, I trained through my 20s. I opened gyms, ran gyms, stuff like that. And, I lived my 20s. I traveled a lot. I hung out with my friends on the weekends. I did kind of whatever I wanted. I lived a great life. Very simplistic, right? In everything I've done, I've always been good with people. I've always been good at sales. I've led a lot of various companies in my 20s, my early 20s, especially in sales. And so I've always enjoyed that. I always, created a relationship with people. And I do the same thing with training. A lot of the people that I train, have become my best friends. And so as I worked through that, there's a guy named Jeff Broyne. He owns a company called Poet. It's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's the largest ethanol producer in the world. And I had the opportunity for years to work with his family. And one day he and I started talking about corporate wellness and all the positives and all this stuff. And he just kicks back and goes, let's do it. And essentially he wrote a blank check. He's like, let's make this the best for our employees. So we built the state-of-the-art gym at our corporate location there. And then we branched out to all the plants nationwide. We put mini gyms and we did, challenges and all these different things, over the almost 9 years that I was there. And it was an amazing experience because I had never worked in a corporate environment like that. I mean, they have their stuff together. It's an amazing company, amazing people that work there. And I learned so much, in my time there. And that's where a lot of the stuff in fitness started to happen for me. I won the Muscle and Fitness Online Male Model Challenge, which allowed me to go compete at the Olympia. And while I was there, I met Jamie Eason at the bodybuilding.com booth. And at the time, she was like the fitness queen. Everybody knew her. There was like a line that was like 3 hours long to meet her. And when I first met her, she thought she knew me. And she just kept saying, oh, you can make it in fitness. You can make it in fitness. Gave me her number, her agent's number. And she's like, I want you to sign up for the bodybuilding.com spokesmodel contest. And at the time, bodybuilding.com was king. Like there was nothing above it. You couldn't just be an athlete. Like you had to win your way and be chosen and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I signed up for it and I ended up becoming one of the 5. And then I was signed to a contract. And from there, I kind of used their credibility to help bolster me and show that I belonged. I started writing articles and started speaking. I started doing all these things I could do what I could to grow in the fitness industry because everything on the corporate side was taken care of. I had a great job and all my off time I spent trying to grow in the industry on the side. I didn't have something where I had to, disregard my moral fortitude to make it. I did it my way, in my own time. People will sell their soul essentially to achieve something or gain something. And I never had to do that, luckily. Mm-hmm. But, again, as I was at Poet, encouraging and allowed me to grow and develop and, even sponsored me through events. And I became an athlete with American Ethanol. And it was an amazing time. But, again, I never had any of those fears because I made more than enough money and everything was just a bonus. So I had a good 9 years of growth and building without worry, which was awesome. And then from there, I went to a private equity company, which is the largest Verizon wireless retailer in the country. And worked with a guy named Kevin Tupy there, another good friend of mine, amazing individual. Became close with his family, and I'm still close to the previous family, by the way. It was time for something else. I moved on. I talked to them, one of the family members probably weekly, and I love all those guys, always will. But then went on to Kevin. Kevin was a different type of education. So that was the other thing I was going to say earlier. When you talk about who I align myself with, I had this conversation today, and it reminded me of this is the gentleman I was training today. So I do whole health fitness when I train somebody. So everything from their nutrition to their training and all that. So I've really gotten back into that again. For a while, I wasn't training in person for years.
Yeah.
And this guy is a CPA. He is an attorney, business attorney, and he owns a bunch of stuff in oil, right? And we talked about the education that I get every day working with people like him. I work with orthopedic surgeons, millionaires, billionaires, all these people every day. I work with a very high-end clientele. I work with athletes and actors and stuff like that. You know, imagine being surrounded by those people every day. And they're in your core group of people and what you can learn from them, how they make things, how they get there, how they get that. You ask them for advice, you know. And those are the people I would say I align myself with more than somebody that's on social media, the people that have really made an impact in business. So like Kevin, for instance, the Verizon person that I worked with next, he taught me all these different things, you know, about business and, you know, building things and commercial properties and all that. And now here I am, you know, we've got a gym coming up. It's being built right now. And when we first had our first meetings, the guy who's a big developer here, I knew his language because I sat with him those meetings previously with Kevin, and I would hear all the things that he would say. You know, so not just being a fitness person, I was able to understand the business aspects and the building aspects and all the things that it took to open a gym, because I've opened previous gyms, but the dynamic of what this guy was going to do, I understood because of somebody previously. So anyway, that's long-winded, but, you know, from Kevin, now I'm here in Texas, so.
I love it. And it's just, I mean, it's, you're just speaking to so many important things that I think people miss. You know what I mean? And that's one of the bigger reasons why we even do this podcast in the first place, is because people look at social media and they're like, oh yeah, Brandan, just a fitness guy. Look at the guy. He has nice abs. Cool. And it's like, what? No, like people are still humans behind that image. People are still humans behind that you know, curated kind of thing on social media that some of the younger generations, or even, I mean, even people in your age group, I mean, and they look at it and they just think it's so easy, but there's a real person behind this. And like you're saying, being multifaceted and putting plans into place and structuring a place so that you're not just having your eggs in one basket, or you're not just depending on your image. Like if social media took a shit tomorrow, like what is your life and who are you and what are you going to do? Right. And that's like, you didn't have social media to even start with. It was something that was a part of it. You said you even wished that you maybe wanted to get started sooner on it, but you didn't. And so how do you really like make, you know, when you put your phone down and you go out in the real world, what's going to be there for you? Right.
Well, most people today, you know, essentially looking at the younger generation, they're like, well, I've got 700 friends. Well, those are online. Are they really your friends? You know, they don't understand the social dynamic of friendship and networking, all those other things, often because, you know, they just have a bunch of random people following a page that they post pictures of cats on, you know, or something like that. You know, it's funny, you keep relating me to, you know, being a fitness person, which I am. I spend 90% of my life in the gym. I do every day. And, you know, for years, I would say, if you look at my social media, like I've got, you know, a verified Facebook page with 300,000 followers. I wasn't posting anything. I was just throwing random memes on there, to be honest. And if you look at my Instagram for years, I was just essentially posting memes. That's it. They even have a meme page because that's part of who I am too. I'm a fitness person at heart, but I'm also a person that likes to learn and laugh. And, you know, I love making people laugh. I love meeting people. I love networking. I love all those other things. So I've never taken my social media to try to utilize it for growth other than putting the things out there that I feel like posting that day. Like if you go into my stories every day, you're going to see my kid. You're going to see probably what he's wearing that day. You may periodically see food. You'll see some memes for sure. But often if I post a supplement, you know, I posted a friend of mine, I asked him about a supplement that Joe Rogan keeps preaching, which is Alpha Brain. Mm-hmm. And he sent me a ton of stuff from on it. and I posted about it because I was touched, that he sent me something. And to me, I feel like I'm so far removed from fitness, even though I'm in fitness, because I'm not pushing, me standing with my shaker every day,
Yay.
like that only sells for so long. And so when I talk about those things, I talk about them genuinely because that's something I use. Like, these guys, all the arms race products and everything, I take them every day. They send supplements to my child. And so when I talk about it, I'm talking about because I'm really using it. And I've been offered sponsorships. I had, First Form not long ago was offering me, one of their whatever top tier, whatever it is. And I'm not interested in that anymore. I did all that. So now when I have stuff, and First Form is a great company too, no knocks on them, but I'm not in that place in my life anymore, where I want to do those things and promote those things and all that. So if social media went away today, as you were talking about, I would be just fine because I have so many positive. Well, yeah, and I still post on stuff, but it's still a way to connect. But I have more fulfilling interpersonal relationships. People always ask me like, "Oh man, I bet you go out all the time and you do this and this and this," and I don't. I'm a homebody.
Yeah.
I think people just assume that I'm always off doing something or I get invited. Often I'm never invited to anything, to be honest. People just don't invite me. Probably assume that, I already have something, but, I train 6 to 12 sessions a day, hour sessions, every day. And so when I'm doing that, I get to hang out with my friends, so to speak. They're my clients, but they become my friends. And I've been so lucky and blessed to have so many amazing individuals find me, so to speak. Like we find each other. I feel like I've always been so, again, the word blessed to have individuals that I can help and that I connect with and they connect with me on a different level beyond just picking up a weight. You have very intimate conversations about life and your family and all this other stuff. So by the time the day is at end, I'm fulfilled. I don't need to go party. I don't drink. I don't need any of that stuff because I've had a great day with a lot of great people. And that's what my days look like.
For sure. Have you ever drank?
Yeah. Yep. I even had an alter ego named Cliff in my 20s.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Cliff was a good time. There's a movie called Dead Man on Campus with Paul Gosselaar, the guy that was Zach Morris. Mm-hmm. There's this guy named Cliff, and he's absolutely crazy. So, yeah, I'd get very excited and very happy. Not violent or mad or mean or anything like that. Just very excited. Just wanted to talk to all the people. So, I stopped drinking when I started to compete. I started to compete when I was 30, and it just wasn't conducive to success anymore. It wasn't something I enjoyed. It's something that, I felt like shit in the morning, and then I'd have to train or this, that, and I'm like, this just doesn't work. So in the last 13 years, I've probably drank, and when I say drink, I've maybe had a couple beers, maybe 4 or 5 times, maybe. And it's just not my thing. Don't enjoy it.
It's not a bad thing. Do you have a favorite Cliff story?
I think it was because of my personality that I could just get away with things, being from South Dakota. And, I worked in bars and stuff too, by the way. I was a bartender for many years and a bouncer. Oh. I think probably one of the best was just walking behind a bar and making my own drinks and then making drinks for other people while the bartender was over on the other side of the bar. And they let me get away with it, because I would always tip big and I wasn't a threat, I was just fun. So, I just was allowed to probably do things that other people probably would get thrown out for just because I always treated people with respect. I was just me times about 35 and a big smile. So
trouble is what we call that.
Yes, I was that. And I would always say, I do what I want is what I would always say as Cliff. I do what I want. But Cliff is retired.
Bye, Cliff.
Yeah.
And so personal relationships, life, corporate life, fitness, kind of whatever you do is hard. Throwing relationships into that. You've been married before?
I was married. Yep. We were married for almost 9 years. Mm-hmm. We officially divorced, I lose track of time, a year or so ago, something like that. So I see her just about every day, probably.
That's awesome.
just having that positive relationship for my son. My son's 5, he'll turn 6 this weekend. And other than work, he's my guy. My mom was actually married 7 times. And, I remember how I felt in a lot of those situations. And, I try to really make sure that he's always happy and healthy and protected in the long term, from any traumas or pain or anything like that. So
That's a big deal. That's a big responsibility. I mean, I think that, there's things in my upbringing and coming from split families and things like that that actually even keep me from wanting to be a parent. Which I don't know if that's a good thing, but my therapist can figure that out. But for you, that's a big responsibility to take on. But it seems like you take it seriously, that you enjoy being a father. You look at the picture of you guys and your kids, and you're hanging them here on your arm, and it's pretty awesome. It seems like the relationship that you guys have been able to develop.
Yeah, my son, he's awesome. He's very smart. He's in kindergarten right now. I'm a different type of parent. I'm not super strict. I'm strict because when I put the law down, like, he listens, right? But we very much do things together. You know what I mean? So I'm doing something with him and stuff like that, then he's not off getting into trouble. Trust me, he gets into trouble all the time. But overall, in general, like, he knows what I expect, what my expectations are, and he falls in line with that. And, I'll be honest, like, one, I didn't think I was going to be a parent. I never did. And as I got older, I really didn't think I was going to be a parent. And then when I became a parent, I was 38 years old when he was born. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to be a dad at all. I didn't connect with him right away. The idea of him was exciting. And then when he came, I'm like, the hell am I doing? Right. Mm-hmm. And his mom was an instantaneous mom. Like, she just connected and clicked with it. And, that first year was very hard, trying to learn to connect, how to handle a kid that's pissed off all the time, stuff like that. The kid's not sleeping. Mm-hmm. And then eventually one day it just clicks. It's like they recognize you and you recognize them back. And then from there it just grows and it gets better. At night, I'll lay down with my son and, he's telling me stories and he's asking me questions and telling me what he knows. He'll be in the backseat of the car. One of the best things ever is when your kid tells you about his day, and he's just telling you stories about this, and this. And his first week of school, he got in a fight at school. Oh, no. He's in karate, and that's given him a ton of confidence. But I'm in the front seat, and he's got a friend, and this friend was being picked on by the bully, as he called him. And he's the big kid. Oh, and I said, well, what happened? And he goes, well, he just nonchalant. He goes, oh, he had him on the ground, and he wouldn't let him go. And I go, well, what did you do? He goes, well, I kicked him. I said, well, what did he do then? And he goes, well, he stopped. I said, were you scared? And he said, no. I said, well, what happened then? He goes, well, he grabbed him again by his head. I said, well, what'd you do? He goes, I kicked him again harder. And I go, well, what'd he do? He goes, he stopped this time. And then he went, and then we colored. And I was like, okay, that's how things are. Got in a fight and then colored. Okay. But then I had to have this talk with him, in the back of my head. I'm like, hell yes. Yes.
That's my kid. Woo.
Yes. But I had the talk. I said, if people pick on you, you can stand up for yourself and you can stand up for your friends. I said, but I don't want you to pick fights. Don't pick fights. Avoid them if you can. But, whether a parent agrees or not, he can stand up for himself. I'm not going to let him be bullied and picked on and, all that other stuff. I don't want him to be a timid adult, and I want him to stand up for what he believes in and what he thinks and, what he cares about. And, violence doesn't play into that, but not allowing violence to take over you is a part of that. And I'm not going to let him be, a victim to other people and things and ideas. I want to be very strong-minded and a strong individual that he can take care of himself. And I'll be honest, that's where I'm at in my life now. It sounds weird, and people talk about life expectancy and all this other stuff, right? When I was younger, I always said I would die young. No lie. You can even ask my ex this because she drove her crazy. But I never felt I never saw myself as like a 90-year-old. I just didn't. I was still in cliff phase. I'm like, we're just going to burn out. This is going to be great. But now I have things to teach, and I have things to be there for, and now I'm like, please God, let me get to 65 or let me get to 70. If I have 30 years with my son, I will have left him with enough that I know he'll be okay, you know? And so that's my mindset now, you know, when it comes to weight training and cardio and all that, it's all about longevity now. It's not having the biggest shoulders and being the strongest and all that other stuff. Now I just tell people to Google me, just check out what I did. But overall, it's about being here for him. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. And you know, there are those challenges like you're saying, but to be able to foster and lead and teach are a lot of the things that, you know, you did as a human and you did when you didn't have those resources and you sought those out. It so seems like, and kind of, I think you speak with a lot of youth, right?
yep, I haven't in a while with COVID and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
In the past, I would speak at colleges, high schools, kids on reservations, kids on lockdown, stuff like that. You know, and a lot of the stuff I talk about, when I first started speaking, I was speaking sociology classes and stuff. And a lot of it was more so about, you know, just fitness stuff and diet, right? And I would always have everything up on the board, and I would just kind of read a script. And I realized that wasn't my speaking style. My speaking style was just talking about what I know and what I'm passionate about. And instead of having words, I put pictures, you know, up on a board and go through my PowerPoint, and I just talk about whatever it is I'm talking about that day. A lot of times it's overcoming, you know, adversity and being your best self and achieving things and, you know, finding your own greatness, because we all have greatness within us. And just really trying to give them a different mindset that if I can do the things that I've done, things that I never expected to have happen, you most definitely, especially at a younger age and starting now, can do the things that you want to do. And I fully enjoy that. I unfortunately haven't had much time in quite a while to do that. But I will be getting back into that. After the gym opens, I'll start speaking at some of the schools here and stuff like that.
Well, and it's funny too, because, you know, we hop on here and it's like, if I didn't know, I think, who you were, and for our YouTube viewers here and our audio listeners, I'm sorry, maybe hop on the YouTube. But if I didn't know anything about like your aesthetic or your fitness history, like I wouldn't even assume there's like muscles underneath your sweater. Like I'm like, this guy's
still there.
Are they still there? Are you sure? No.
Yeah, they're still there. It's funny. I got in the point where I wear t-shirts sometimes to work. You know, my aesthetics are still there. I'm not quite as big as I was, and I maintain a good physique year round without trying. And by not trying, I don't go crazy like I used to, you know, lifting for 2 hours a day and cardio and eating 7 meals. I actually fast all day now, and I eat all my food within about a 4 to 5 hour window. And I've done that for the last few years because it works for me in my schedule. And I'm not saying fasting is the best thing or whatever. I'm not saying that. Yeah. It works for me. And, you know, the fitness thing, I know even at, you know, I turned 43 in October. Even at 43, like I can still improve if I want to. I can still get bigger. I can still do a lot of those things. Last year, I set a goal. I was going to do a few photo shoots for myself, you know, at 42, leading to 43. And then I got COVID. And that was a setback because I was right into the building phase. And then I got COVID again 9 months later. So it went on hold, but now I've been in a great position again. So right after the new year, I've got some goals set for myself, and I'll get back after it.
Yeah, that's very cool. And the personal goals are important. Obviously, kind of everyone knows that, but really looking at yourself in your life and like, what's going to actually bring me fulfillment, not what's going to bring me stature, what's going to bring me, you know, other people's respect and things like that. I mean, you said you're doing a photo shoot for yourself, right?
Yes.
Like, and that's a really empowering thing, right? Like going in and doing it and preparing your physique. Would you recommend that other people do that as well for themselves? And what do you feel like that brings you interpersonally?
You know, goals and stuff. So you got to think, I've done so many photo shoots, you know, over the years with so many of the most amazing photographers out there, and video shoots and all that stuff. For me, I just have to have a specific goal to push myself to a different limit. You know what I mean? And, you know, for me, a photo shoot is that. And maybe I'll do a video shoot. I don't know. But will I even do a photo shoot? Who's to say? I don't know. But I'll train like I am, and I'll get myself in that kind of shape for that. I was talking about goals with a client this morning. You know, we went through a cut phase where he went from 225 pounds and he dropped all the way to like 184 over the course of months. And he looked great. Well, his birthday hit, that was his goal. Then after that, it was summer. And then he started to slowly step away from what he was doing. And then fall comes, and then I'm going to get back on track. And let's go into a building phase. And then he hasn't been consistent. And then today we had a talk. It's like, okay, I'm way heavier than I want to be. I'm way heavier than what I told him he should be. And he knows that if he doesn't turn it around now, he's going to get closer to where he was when he started.
Yeah.
And he has a goal set in the spring, for what he essentially had last year. He wanted to be, he wanted a six pack, and he wanted to be the best he's ever been. And he was already the best he's ever been last year, but now he wants to take it past that. And so for any individual, I always tell people, you got to set now goals and then take your time leading up to a big goal. Because like if you were just to go to an average individual and be like, let's do show prep. All right. You're going to be perfect starting today all the way to a show. Now that means your diet's perfect, your cardio is perfect, your supplementation is perfect, workouts are perfect, and it sucks every day, right? And you're not used to that. So it's like somebody that, drinks 12 cans of soda a day. I don't tell them to quit all 12, cut it in half, wean your way down. The same thing with getting ready for something. Change one or two habits and take yourself up slowly as your body gets used to it. Because once you get used to eating a certain way, it gets easier. Once you get used to working out, once you get used to cardio, once you get used to these things over time, you incrementally put it in there. Because if you throw it all at once, that rate of change diminishes. You can't necessarily tell what's working and what doesn't, right? So I'm very particular with myself and with others when we're goal setting, is set them for now, set them for midterm, set them for long term, and let's meet them as we go. Let's win every day. As long as you're moving forward at all, even baby steps. And I tell people all the time, I say baby steps, because if you're even baby stepping for a year is going to take you a whole hell of a lot further than trying to take these giant leaps. Same thing when it comes to sponsorships and all these other things. If you baby step your way there and do the right things to get there, you're going to get there and stay there. If you keep jumping forward and assuming that things are going to happen for you because of what you've done once or haven't done or what you look like, likely you're not going to stay there or ever get there. And it's the same thing with goals in general. If you don't baby step your way or know how you got there up the rings of ladders on the way up, let's say you fall back. Well, if you just jumped ahead and you fall, there's nothing to catch you. You're just going to keep falling because you don't know how the hell to get back to where you were.
Totally. Well, you can give someone the best plan possible, but if someone's not willing to learn it or to ask questions or to be observant, and to really be able to connect to it, yeah, they're going to get results. They might get the best results they've ever gotten, but what are they going to be able to take away from that? Right.
Or to follow it or trust it also. So that's the other thing that people do is, one, they do one of two things. They either don't trust somebody enough or they trust somebody too much. And that's another epidemic of sorts in the fitness industry, where there's so many unknowledgeable people that are giving out programs and plans and diet advice and drug advice and all these things, and they're ruining people, and they don't know their head from their ass. They don't know what they're doing. I had a conversation with somebody just 2 days ago about somebody, that's a trainer, and they told me all the stuff that they did to them. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like it's still happening. It's still going on, and it's something that's terrible. So people in general, even the people I work with, I always tell them, question everything I tell you to do. Look it up. If I tell you to take vitamin C, look up why. Do the research yourself. And the same thing with other people. If you're hiring a business coach, look into their methodologies, ask for referrals, look at what they've done and accomplished on their own, look and make sure it's actually real. Look at their social media and make sure it's not bot followers and bot likes, really investigate the things that you invest your time in the people that you listen to. Because again, often people just want to jump ahead and like, oh, I'm going to hire so-and-so and I'm either going to be a pro or I'm going to be this, or exactly what happened to them is going to happen to me. Or they'll hire a coach that essentially has what I call workhorses, where you've got these 4 or 5 athletes that are, they could have just woke up in the morning and got on a stage and won. They're just God-gifted athletes, right? Mm-hmm. And then they have the whole other group of people over here that nobody sees. That's the bigger part of their business. But they lead with this 1 or 3 athletes, right? You can't tell me that somebody like a Hani Rambod, who's had Nicole Wilkins and Phil Heath and Jay Cutler and all these other people, when people see that, they're like, holy hell, I want to train with him, right? Mm-hmm. Do you suppose all of his athletes look that way? maybe, maybe not. He's obviously also one of the most accredited people creating, people that win Olympias and stuff like that. But not everybody looks like that. They could all be successful in their own right, in their own way. But what unfortunately people do is they look at Jay Cutler and think, well, I train with him, I'm going to be Jay Cutler. Mm-hmm. Whereas you're more likely going to get realistic results and be like the bigger stable of people that they work with. Does that make sense?
Totally. And it's like, I'm not going to be a Jay Cutler. I'm going to be a better version of myself. Yes. And I think people overlook the respect to give to themselves, literally about their own journeys and what they can accomplish as, their personal endeavors. And I'm sure you deal with this within your own clients. Like, everyone's a little different. You work with affluent clients, you work with CEOs, you work with this and that and the other, but kind of that common theme across clients. And I guess, I would like to say that I look at it this way as well, is those personal victories. Like, we can have you kind of have an idea. We can have you set a date for a goal. Are we going to achieve that goal by that date? Maybe not. And that's the reality of it. We can have that goal, and goals are flexible and they're malleable, and we can change whenever we're going to accomplish them based on the quality of the results that we get on the daily.
And as long as coaches say that, that's the problem too. People need to respect, first of all, like Jay Cutler is special, period. Jay Cutler is special. Phil Heath is special. They have work ethic like you've never seen. So they have all these special aspects of them when it comes to their mental game, but then they're also special physically too. I could do everything Jay Cutler did and not be Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler is special in so many regards, and so many of the top people in our industry are special people with special abilities, special mindset, and everything else. The thing is one, people in general need to respect that. And coaches that are training them need to respect that. And then coaches need to be realistic, and they need to be honest with their clients. And that's something that doesn't always happen. And what happens is they want the paycheck. So you're like, no, just keep going 6 more months. Just keep going, right? Just keep writing me a check and we're going to get exactly there. Well, if you're not adhering, let's say you're working with somebody that no matter what they do, they just don't have the genetics matter. You can overcome a lot of that stuff. A lot of that stuff through hard work and nutrition and all that stuff. But again, when I talk about special people, you're not necessarily going to look like somebody else. You're going to look like you, the best version of you. Mm-hmm. But they bypass a lot of things like hormones and all these things that are very important. And they could have a person come to them that they run into the ground that already had a thyroid disorder, or they had this or that or whatever, and nothing was corrected. And then they put them on this 700 calorie plan with 2 hours of cardio every day. And, just makes matters worse. Yeah. You lost body fat, you lost, muscle too. And you're in a state now that you're almost, you're lighter, but are you better off now, or are you better off before when you were still generally healthy, So what I'm saying in general is just people in general need to stand up for themselves. They need to be educated on their own. They need to look into things, and coaches need to be upfront and honest with people. If a person's not ready to be on stage, you tell them. If a person isn't ever going to look like such and such, a good coach can look at somebody and be like, you're probably not going to look like that, Mm-hmm. But being honest and upfront with expectations. And like I said, just too often the expectations are set too high, and it's unattainable. Just a person's not going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys are hearing this from, an incredible fitness trainer, somebody who's been in the space, somebody who has a business background, who understands how money works and how business structure works. You're hearing it from him. Challenge your coach, challenge the people that you're looking to for information, become an informed customer. Don't just go to some company and throw $500, $1,000 at them, or walk into GNC and blow a bunch of money on something that you don't even understand why you're putting in your body. I think a bigger thing people overlook is that this is your health, and it has ramifications. Everything you do, whether it's how long you sit at your desk, whether it's who you associate with, whether it's the food you put in your body, ask those questions and give yourself the dignity and the respect to not have those instant results, right? Take those baby steps and do the things, align yourself in a process and commit to it, and see what you can do with something maybe you've never done before, or with the guidance of someone you've never been able to understand until now, because you started asking those things or doing those things. And Brandon, like you're saying, that's where quality results come from. That's where sustainability comes from. That's where being able to maintain results comes from. And sometimes too, the things that we seek physically are really not physical things we seek physically. They're mental and emotional things.
Yep. I've got two clients I'm going to bring up real fast. I've got a guy named Brandan Downs, one of my best friends in the world now.
Mhm.
And we won the overall in his physique class in North Americans to go pro. And, he questions the hell out of me with stuff, and he'll be very adamant, like he loves to lift heavy weight, low reps, certain things. And there's certain parts of our prep and stuff. I try to pull them in different directions. And from a nutrition standpoint, it's always a negotiation between us because we have two people that are both intelligent, a person that's very well versed in fitness, which is him, and myself, and we come together and we check our work, so to speak. We have a great relationship that way, and that's what training should be. It should be two individuals coming to terms on what it is. And if you hire a high-end trainer, you have to trust in the process, but you still should be able to discuss the process and the whys and the hows and everything else. And he does that all the time, and he still trusts me, and he still does what I say. But there's also times where sometimes with a client, there's coaches that are, you have to be all in on this or whatever. And I believe things can be a little more negligible than that, meaning, we're in a peak week right now with a girl and she wants almond milk in her coffee. And I'm like, that's fine. Whether we go over our calories for the day or not, what's good for the mind is going to be good for your week. Some things trump that. And so with him, we have to sometimes come to terms on those things. And sometimes I'll pull back on what he's like, I'd rather do this. And I'll be like, okay, how about I give you some of this and then we'll do this. And then we go, okay. Whereas the girl that's competing this week, she has a pro physique. She's trusted me for 2 straight years. Her name's Sam McNamara. I give her shit year round, and I'll look at her in the gym. I'll be like, so 14th place today. That's cool. Kind of ride her, like a brother would, but she trusts in my process. And she asks pertinent questions when she needs to. She knows a lot on her own, but she does trust in me. And when I keep saying trust, that means that they're not going to their outlets and individuals. That's one of the worst things I think you can do is when you hire somebody for what they know, and then you go ask 6 other people what they think, because that messes up that whole relationship. And what I'm saying in general, if you could just have a whole and collective relationship with your trainer or coach and be honest with each other 100% and discuss things, you have a fantastic working relationship. The second you take another body out here and you put it into the mix, over here talking in your ear, you start to pull away from what you had here that was so great. And then you have 2 people and 3 people and you're like, well, how do I look today? And what do you think of this? And they're like, well, I wouldn't do this. Nobody is wholly and collectively going to ever agree with each other. It just doesn't happen, especially coaches. A lot of coaches out there have their own egos and stuff like that, and they know best. But what I'm saying in general is, she trusts me. She asks questions. He asks more questions. So in general, I think that that's where people need to be. They just need to form better relationships with each other and really expect honesty and give honesty.
Well, and if you're upset about it and you're upset about someone like coming to you and asking questions, or you feel like attacked, there are definitely times where I think clients don't know how to ask the right questions and it does feel like an attack. And then they're like, actually like, hey, F you. Hopefully not in that situation. Hopefully you don't find yourself in that situation. I mean, any coach, but sometimes if you feel like your ruffles or your feathers are getting ruffled, you have to check your ego too. You have to say like, why am I upset? Why is this? If you feel like this person's coming at you and you don't have an answer, maybe ask yourself not why is this person coming at me? It's like, why don't I have an answer? Why don't I feel equipped to provide this client or provide this person with the information that they're seeking? And why am I all pissed off about it? Because if that's true, you're probably like, you as the coach are probably not doing something correctly.
There's a couple of coaches out there that are on my list, so to speak, that I have absolutely zero respect for. And a lot of it comes with how they treat people, how they manipulate people, how they, get people to buy into BS, so to speak. And then when those people get messed up from whatever it is and whatever protocol they were put on, and they start asking questions about doctors and this and this, they're like, oh, no, I can fix that. No, you can't. You shouldn't be training in general. And then when people are talking about going to professional for help because of something that you did while you manipulated them, and then you try to talk them out of that. I have zero respect for that. One thing about being a trainer or a coach or in competing or in general is, your client's health is number one. To do no harm is your job. And I'm not talking about a hard leg day, I'm saying in general, just, you shouldn't be doing things that really could hurt an individual, especially without their knowledge and understanding, and I'll be honest, drugs are a part of the higher end of the scope of competing. And, when it comes to those discussions and talks, I'm not the person who's going to say, well, a person shouldn't do this and this and this. It's a conversation on, this is what this does. This is what that does. If that's what you decide to do, this is where it can lead you. This is where it can lead you. You're going to have to make that decision, because I'm never going to be the individual that's going to tell somebody that they have to take something or not, or they won't win, or they can't win with me, or they can't train with me. That's just not going to happen ever.
That's very respectable. I think there's a lot of people in the space that are just like, no, you just have to do it. Just dive in, do it. And it's like, okay, at a certain level, but it's really about helping that individual be the best that they can be and work with what they have.
Yep.
And then if they do have to seek out other things, even supplements, a supplement conversation should be taken seriously, because that can go towards somebody's health. It's food, right? Like very basics. So it's very respectable. As far as, and I keep looking at your sweater, and so it's like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Fokken Nuts. Tell me about it.
Fokken Nuts. It's about 4 years old. I've loved peanut butter my whole life. Growing up, my grandma always made me peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And like I said, I had that harder upbringing. And so it was something that was just always special. And, when you get into competing, it's like peanut butter is like a gift of the God on your plan. And when I was really doing a lot in fitness, all these peanut butter brands always sent me stuff. The first was Nuts and More, and I was actually one of their very first athletes, right before they went on Shark Tank. And I still have good, positive relationships, with them. Great people, great company. I'm very proud to see where they're going. They're partnered with Mark Cuban, and they're doing awesome stuff. And over the years, I just was a peanut butter connoisseur. I ate tons of peanut butter. Like a jar a day, literally. I ate tons of peanut butter. And people kept saying, well, why don't you start a brand? And I was like, sure. And about a year before I did, I was talking about it, but it never came to be. And then the year I did it was my New Year's resolution. I said, I'm going to start a peanut butter company this year. No idea what the hell I was doing, to be honest. And so first it started with a logo competition. And it was funny because my actual logo has Superman colors. And I was saying Superman was so important to me. And this person didn't know who I was in the competition. And they were flexing peanuts and everything. And I'm like, that's the logo. And then I came up with the catchphrase, eat the whole jar, which I like that. And with my name, Fokken Nuts, it rang. The name, it's funny because Fokken Strong Training is my training business, which came from that ethanol company. One of their daughters came up with that, actually. So I still owe her credit for that. But, Fokken Nuts, I did that. And then I had to figure out how to get labels made. I had to find somebody that could make it, because I didn't have a factory or anything. I didn't know how to make peanut butter. I had to learn all of that. Yeah. So then I went on my search to get all the things I needed to make peanut butter. And then from there, it was, I brought in a team to do, the website, all this stuff, because I don't know how to do any of that stuff. And so I launched 5 flavors to start. It was cookies and cream, cookie dough, and then crunchy, smooth, and brownie were my five starters.
You make me so hungry.
Yeah. And then from there, we've probably have done around 50 or so. And, we've got all 5-star reviews. We've been Olympic sponsors, bobsled, skeleton, pro athletes, actors, influencers. We've had so many people in write-ups. And again, it's something I run on the side. It's something that I run off my phone during the day. I got some help I've got a tech guy that does my internet stuff when I need help. People, doing the stuff at the factory. And then I've got a guy named Tim that helps with everything else that I need. It's been fun. I planned originally, I wanted to do it for 5 years and see where it went.
Mm-hmm.
And where I'm at now, and I'm doing the pet peanut butter now. I talked about that before.
Wait, pet peanut butter?
Yep. So that's a different company. That's Jay Cutler's company.
Okay.
And, I've been a small part of that. And that has a massive opportunity right now to do a lot of great things. And so now I'm sitting here at Fokken Nuts, and I've been debating for probably 6 months on selling the brand, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I don't love it. It's not that I don't love the products or anything like that.
Yeah.
But when you look at time and energy and where I'm going, we're opening this gym. It's an 18,000 square foot gym. It's a big investment. I'm already looking at a second location with my partners that I'd love to have up in the next year. I still do my in-person training. We launched Pop Fitness, which is our online training protocol. Sam, the girl that's competing actually this week, she and I are partners in that. And then we have some other amazing athletes that train with us.
Mm-hmm.
The pet stuff, my son is number one, my own training, and then being able to get out there and speak and all this stuff. And I've been also looking to start a supplement company here sometime in the future too. I've got a name for it. We've got a logo. We've kind of got a supplement line together already.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually looking for another individual to partner with on that. One of the first people, unfortunately, had to back out of the deal. So we're sitting on that. So I want to find another individual for that. And then, like I said, Fokken Nuts may be up for sale in the new year. We'll see. But the flavors are amazing. I eat way too much of it. Way too much. I literally eat almost a jar a day right now. I used to eat over a jar every single day.
Do you have a favorite flavor right now?
It all depends on the day. Literally, it's funny. Butterscotch is one of my favorites. So we take quinoa and we put it in this butterscotch flavor. So it's almost like a Rice Krispie butterscotch.
What?
So that one is a favorite. Cookie dough, cookies and cream. I like the regular crunchy brownie. You're Killing Me s'mores is another favorite. I literally, we have so many flavors that what I do is I call them sampling. If you go look on my nightstand, I always have like 6 jars there that I kind of go back and forth to. But I love them all. Obviously, when you spend time, making these things, I was eating peanut butter cup last night. And I truly believe that our peanut butter cup is better than the Reese's peanut butter cup. Not the candy, but their spread. I don't think their spread matches their candy bar, but I think our spread actually does. So, but I'm biased. But yeah, we've got just a ton of fun flavors, and we'll send you some after this interview too.
I would love that. We'll do a whole video just sitting here trying peanut butters.
Yeah, I should have just had a jar right here, and
what the hell?
Just eat it the whole time I'm talking.
What business owner you are? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Well, that's pretty exciting. You got a lot of stuff going on, and it's neat to be able to, I know for myself, our team, or your followers, our community, be able to kind of watch you just grow and expand and share your knowledge and your expertise. And like, you have access to people and resources that some people only dream of, right? And the best part is you're not like, oh yeah, it's just me. It's like, how can I share and expand and elevate my community and the people who look to me for guidance in the way that these other people have elevated me and led me to. Yeah. And I think that's one of the bigger, very respectable things about you, like when we sit here and we look at podcast guests, like who do we want to talk to and why? In this Swole Friends community and someone like yourself and Brandon, it's been just, honestly an honor to be able to share, or for you to share and for us to listen about what you do and how you do it. It's really unique. It's something that I think that a lot of people, whether you're in the fitness space or business space or otherwise, can look up to you and look to you for guidance, follow you for some sweet memes. You seem to have a good sense of humor. So, follow his meme account, not his fitness account. No, I'm just kidding. But
it's not really, it's a me account now. It's I don't post much on my wall. And when you're giving me all these accolades and stuff, realize when I talk about some of the best things that are in my life, the networking and the connecting and everything like that. And when you talk about people not having access to people like that, that's what you're doing. you're connecting people with the same like-minded type of people that I connect with on a daily basis, right? So through you are connecting thousands of other individuals with people like me, or the people that I know, or the people that so-and-so knows, and all these other people. So the service that you're doing is invaluable, because at the end of the day, people don't ever understand like how much somebody impacts them. There's people in my life that literally have said a sentence to me that impacted my life greater than people I've known my whole life, right? And somebody may hear this today and they hear something I say and they run with it. I've heard some pretty crazy stories over the years where people came to meet me and they're like, well, this one time you said this, or, I had an individual drive hours and hours and hours to meet me to say he was on the verge of committing suicide. But what I was saying day to day connected with him to the point where he was inspired to keep living. When you hear something like that, when I first got a platform, I thought I had to say things that affected the masses, right? So I was always speaking to the masses. And then I had a conversation with a friend that pointed out a lot of the positive things that happened to me. People that would come tell me, 1 in 10,000 has the opportunity to come tell you that you impacted their life. You ever think if you just put out the message for the one, as opposed to the masses, that one individual that needs to hear it will hear it, and it could change their life. And when you speak to the one, the masses get the message too. And that's what you're doing through your platform, is you're taking the one and the next one and the next one, and you're putting it out to the masses, and we share this message together because you're the one asking the questions, and so you're impacting people too. So don't discredit that.
Oh. Well, thank you. And that's, I appreciate that you can see that too, and that's the biggest thing is, and two, a lot of times we spend a lot of this podcast talking about social media. We talk about interactions. Like, you guys, if you're listening to this, literally, like, it's just one like. You don't need a bunch. You don't need a bunch of followers. Like, don't forget that the people who are following on social media are real people. Like, it doesn't matter if you have 200 followers or 500,000 or more. One person is what it's about. And if you had those people in a room, and if you had 500 people in a room, how different would you act? What would you actually say? How would you present yourself? And what type of person would you be in your life if those people on your phone were actually there in person? And I don't know. I don't know if you have anything more to say on that. It's a pretty emotional kind of thing, at least in my heart. It's a pretty deep thing. So,
when people look at that stuff right now, and I told you, like, a lot of the fitness people have kind of fizzled out when it comes to branding and marketing and selling things. And again, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying a lot.
yeah.
The people that are lifestyle, the people that are credible, the people that share their lives day in and day out, the laundry soap they use. And of course, they've learned ways to market that and, capitalize on their followings as they grew one. But the people that are more themselves are the people that have the staying power, the people that are sharing their own messages. Like, I've been around for, I'll say 12 years, and here I am still on a podcast because somebody found me relevant enough to talk to them. You know what I mean? But that's only ever been me just sharing what I think and my message, and, putting what I think out there, whether it be a meme or my son, or, posting my Christmas lights or whatever it may be, right? Because that's authentic, because it's who I am. And would you rather have people follow you for who you are or who you're not at the end of the day? Because carrying on a lie day in and day out for years isn't something that I would hope anybody else would want to do.
And if that means you face adversities and that means you face the shit in life, like, that's just welcome it. It's not an obstacle unless you let it be. And, there's that saying, let the obstacle become the way. Let your adversities, shape you into becoming bigger and better and rising and leading by example, and share your story. People, you never know who's listening, or the little eyes that are watching, you could say too.
Yes. Having a 5-year-old can say that.
Exactly. Brandon, how do people connect with you? Website, social media, what's best?
Probably Instagram. I'm on the most, at Brandan Fokken. That's probably the best. Facebook, my athlete page, I go on and I post something and I'm off of there. Facebook, my personal page, I get a lot of requests. I don't recognize somebody, I don't add them. So pretty much Instagram. Otherwise, that's probably it. That's probably the best way.
Okay. And for our audio listeners, I'm going to spell this out for you. It's Brandan Fokken. As far as training, how can people, follow your guidance in the fitness space?
In the fitness space, when you talk about guidance and stuff, people can always message me and ask me questions first and foremost. I try to always respond to anybody that writes to me specifically with a question.
Not a, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
Don't do that.
You can go to Pop Fitness, which is our Instagram page. And there's right on my Instagram, you can see Pop Fitness on there. That's our fitness space that we're just really now launching. We got a great team of individuals. So whether you're looking for, macros or show prep, just lifestyle training, or just want to lose a few pounds, whatever it may be, feel free to hit us up through there.
Cool. Do you guys have any challenges for the New Year's or anything going on that way?
We haven't set anything up because I've been putting the gym together, and then she just competed a few weeks ago, and now she's competing again. Yeah, she's got 2 young kids. I've got my kids, so we're going to enjoy the holidays. So I would say probably we'll get working in the new year on stuff. We currently have three other trainers. We got another bikini pro who's also a nurse, and then we have a figure pro, and then we have another bodybuilder guy as a second guy trainer. So we've got a great team of individuals. We do have a ebook. I was trying to think what those are called. Ebook that I had put together that we do have on our site. So I believe I did a 9-week plan that people can follow. So I would definitely check that out.
Okay. Yeah. And that's on the website?
Yes.
Okay. And then for the gym, when do you kind of expect the gym to be open or for people to be able to come down and pop into the gym?
So we're thinking anywhere from mid-January to mid-February. We just say, in the new year. Yeah. It's called Gym Culture, and mygymculture.com is the website. It's going to be awesome. We got the best of the best of everything we could. We want it to really be about community and family, as Dom says in Fast and the Furious. But it's going to be something special, I think. We want everybody to come check it out. We'll have a big grand opening after our initial release, and I'll be obviously posting about that. But we're excited for it. It's something I believe the community needs and wants, and we're going to be able to touch and help and meet a lot of new individuals, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be great to have that environment. If anyone can drop in or go down to Texas and pop in and actually meet Brandan in person, and see kind of his expertise in real life physical space and what he's learned over the years. Brandan, it's been awesome to have you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, for sharing your knowledge, your story. I hope you guys, listening to this or watching the YouTube, that you feel inspired, that you feel like a real human. And I say that because you matter. What you do matters. And when you start to recognize and step into that power that you have as just being who you are and telling your own story and sharing what you do in your life, you can inspire and lead just as Brandan does. So make sure to subscribe to the Swole Friends podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify for the audio. Thank you for listening. If you are here on the YouTube, make sure to tune in. We do have these lives with wonderful individuals in the fitness and just kind of business and just kind of space altogether that I sit down and talk with. It's an absolute privilege. And subscribe. Brandan, thank you so much. And we do wish you the very best of success now and also in the new year. And give your little man a high five for me.
Will do. I appreciate having been on. Thank you.
All right. You bet. You guys have a good day.